Okay, let me, everybody had a chance to read it? Hotel. If you will check the timestamp down on this document, it appears as though this document was sent on Monday, this past Monday, about 12:30. It was sent to the fax machine at my home, and I got home later that evening and got an opportunity to see it. The first thing that I did was to call Sister Karen Mason. As many of you know, the person who is responsible for these forums is Sister Karen Mason. And she has done a yeoman job. She has done a yeoman job in terms of carrying out her duties, although she does not reside in New York City anymore, but she has done a great job. One of the things that you know about these forums is that I believe that everybody should be heard. That's right. And I don't censor people, and it doesn't matter whether somebody likes me or not. That's right. They will be invited. We've invited Steve Coakley. We will be sending out an invitation for April, at some point in April, for Malik Zulu Shabazz. Because anybody that know me knows that I don't limit who you should hear. I believe that you should hear everybody and make up your own mind. All right, so whatever anybody know about me, they know that I'm not one to limit. And I don't have any favorites here. Whether people like me or not, it doesn't matter. At the end of the night, we're going to pay all of their expenses. We're going to pay their honorarium. We're going to pay their air flight, hotel bills, the whole 9 yards. They could have talked about me like a dog for 3 hours on stage. That's right. But in the meantime, that is what I've always believed, and that's where I always operate, because I believe that black people should have a free mind and should have the ability to think very freely. Now, when I received this memorandum, purportedly from Steve Coakley, and I say purportedly from Steve Coakley because I don't know Steve Coakley's handwriting. That's right. That's right. All right? All right, I don't know Steve Coakley's handwriting. Somebody else might know it. I don't know Steve's handwriting, okay? So since I didn't know Steve's handwriting, it could have come from anybody. That's right. All right? So I said to Sister Mason, I said, try to contact Steve, because we have something here that bears his name and bears somebody's handwriting. That's why I wanted to share with all of you. That's why we went out and got copies made so all of you could have all that I have. That's all I have. I have not had a conversation with Steve this week. I have called Steve several times this week. Sister Karen Mason, she may have called Steve about 50 times since she got this. We haven't heard from Steve. All right, Steve haven't said boo to us one way or the other. So, as I said before, there may be other people who can attest to his signature who are here. All right, I can't attest to it, but it's the only document that I have, and I wanted to share it with you. Now, I really had hoped that Steve could have given us more of an explanation than what we have on this document. All right? But I couldn't sit out an SOS to you and say he wasn't coming because I hadn't talked to Steve. So, you know, it was like, I mean, I could send out an SOS and say Steve wasn't coming. Steve popped up and said, no, I didn't send this. So I was caught in a catch-22, all right? Also, we couldn't really schedule any other speakers because by us not having talked to Steve, we could be obligated to have to pay him and pay somebody else as well, all right? Now, I know that Steve was very concerned about his own safety.
That's right.
All right? I know it was I know last week he was very concerned about his safety. I did assure him that he would be safe, but I reckon he looked at me and said, well, that's a lot of assurances. You know? And so, apparently, yeah, right. Well, I hope that a lot of people take it that way, but apparently Steve didn't. But I told Steve, I said, look, you know, I think that everything will be all right. I know that there are going to be a lot of people who really want to hear, you know, what you have to say. And I say that for this reason. We hope that, I mean, I personally hope that Khallid didn't die a natural death. All right? I hope that. All right? I mean, because I love Khallid. And out of that love, I would have wanted him to live as long as he could possibly live. All right? So, even though I know that people who live unnatural lives also die unnaturally. All right? If you live an unnatural life, you more than likely die unnaturally. It's one thing that bothers me about what happened to Khallid. Khallid Muhammad was probably the only person in America in which the United States Congress passed both a bill of attainder and an ex post facto law against him. All right? Now, nobody can say that they didn't do that because they condemned Khallid in February of 1994 for only exercising First Amendment rights. They did that. All right? Congress had no business doing that. And they were led by Negroes in the Congressional Black Caucus. All right? I'm talking about the history. The Congressional Black Caucus told Minister Farrakhan that he could have no relationship with them until he dealt with Khallid Muhammad. And Jesse Jackson collaborated with others in January of 1994 and put the New York Times ad out. And those things happen. The table as a people and resolve our problems. But you got people right around town telling all kinds of lies because they're not aware of rules of reciprocity and rules of comedy that black men and black women got to live by. You got to have some principles and standards. So I don't have any problem in terms of the fact that we may have some disagreement over Dr. Khallid Muhammad, but this is the place for us to resolve it. You understand? This is the place for us to resolve it among ourselves. This is the place for us to put all of our cards on the table. I would hope that those who say that Khallid died a natural death, I would hope that they are right and that our suspicions are wrong and unfounded. I would hope that. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't put this to the test. All right? It doesn't mean we shouldn't put it to the test.
Put it to the test.
You know, Dr. Khallid Abdul Muhammad, without a question, was the blackest black man in America. All right? There's no question about it. And Reverend Sharpton can be my witness. Several years ago, when Mr. Farrakhan was coming back, this must have been around 87, 88, Reverend Sharpton and I would go into cities in advance of Minister Farrakhan in order to build up the audience for Minister Farrakhan. All right? We would go into cities to build up audiences. And one night we was in St. Louis, Missouri, after he had spoken. And I was sitting there, and Reverend Sharpton was sitting there, and I told Minister Farrakhan then, I said, the strength of the Nation of Islam is going to depend upon Khalid Muhammad. This was before 1994. All right? The strength. This man was the conscience of the Nation of Islam. He was the conscience of Minister Farrakhan. You can't have a great leader unless there's a great moral compass guiding the great leader. Khalid Muhammad was that moral compass. He was our moral conscience. You know, sometimes we may get a little weak. Sometimes we want to do a little foot shuffling. Sometimes we want to strike where nothing's itch. Then we looked up there and saw Khallid, and we stood straight again. All right? Y'all know that. Y'all know that. And so, I'm going to be in contact with Brother Steve. But I'm also going to be in contact with Brother Malik. Because I was also in Georgia. And anybody that have any knowledge of Georgia have to be suspicious of anybody that dies in Georgia. All right? You have to be very suspicious of anybody that dies in Georgia. All right? I know something about Georgia. All right? I'm going to let you speak, brother. I'm going to let you speak. I know something about Georgia. I grew up in Georgia. That's right. And I know them crackers will do to you in Georgia. That's the reason I wear glasses now. One night about 12 crackers beat the daylights out of me and left me for dead. I'm not telling you what I think, I'm telling you what I know. There's nowhere in the world, and I'll say this, because people in Georgia tell you the same thing. My wife will tell you, a good friend of mine called up to the house when he heard that Khallid was in the hospital, and this is what him just speaking naturally. He said, what in the world is Khallid doing in a hospital in Marietta? All right, this is somebody from Georgia who is not overly politically conscious. This is just good old Georgia horse sense. All right, he wanted to know, what is he doing? Because as he said, one of the best hospitals for aneurysms was Grady Hospital. And Grady Hospital probably has the largest percentage of black doctors in that area. And it would have been just as easy to take him to Grady Hospital as to take him to Marietta. But again, that's what we are assembled here for. Despite all of that, miracles do happen. Maybe he did die of a natural cause. But the circumstances do not suggest that. All right? Circumstances do not suggest that. And that's the reason why that we have to have this inquiry. See, we have to conduct our own inquest. All right? See, I'm just as qualified to be a coroner as the cracker in Marietta, Georgia. That's right. All right? I'm just as qualified. All right, to be a coroner. You don't have to have no medical degree to be a coroner. In many places, the funeral director is a coroner. Places like Cobb County, they have, a lot of them little counties have coroners. And then they have a coroner's jury, where they present the evidence to the coroner's jury. And that's what we're talking about here. We can have our own inquest. I know a whole lot about homicide investigations. That was my specialty, trying homicide cases. So I understand all of that. I've had every major medical examiner on the witness stand. And I done whipped every last one of them. That's right, every last one of them. They were so terrified up there in the Brawley case, Michael Biden was terrified. The judge was terrified to put him on the stand. He supposed to be the best. But I had something for him. I was getting ready to destroy his career. Until the judge bailed him out. We proved that. Upstate. Despite all of what them crackers said. We talking about the real deal here. And so I can't throw my knowledge away to just blindly accept what somebody else says. See, I can't do that. If I didn't know what I was talking about, I would be the first to shut up. All right? Because I don't talk about things I don't know. But I'm well versed in this area. I've taken courses all over America, Northwestern University, University of Colorado. I've been all over this country studying this area. And so this is the reason why I had hoped that Steve would be able to come up. But I did hear some very disturbing threats on Steve's life.
Tell the truth. Tell the truth.
I heard some threats on Steve's life. And I recognized the voice of those who were making the threats. All right? We got to deal with the truth. We need to cut this foolishness out. Our enemy is not us. And if anybody know me, you would know that I don't spend no time fighting black folks. When I wake up in the morning, I'm looking for crackers. All right? I don't have no history of fighting blacks. I don't have that. Because I don't care who you are. You ain't my problem. I know what my problem is. I'm clear who raped my mama and my grandmama. I'm clear who brought me over here. Very clear. I know who's responsible for all of my pain. I know who beat me up. I know who lynched my folks.
That's right. That's right.
I know who terrorized the South when I was growing up. It wasn't none of y'all. And y'all may want to sit somewhere and flatter yourself and take some bows or something you weren't even involved in, but if you want to hallucinate, that's your problem. All right? You ain't had nothing to do with my problem. Nothing at all. That's the reason why I don't dislike any black person. I don't dislike any black person. I can sit down and deal with anybody, and do. We held a unity breakfast in January. I invited everybody, including Malik. All right? He didn't show, and the next time I have something, he'll be invited like everybody else. Because he's my brother like everybody else is. A few weeks ago, I had an opportunity to go to Atlanta, Georgia, and when I arrived in Atlanta, there were a host of members of the New Black Panther Party at the hospital in Cobb County, and certainly one of the brothers who were in the forefront of orchestrating many of the activities that were occurring in Marietta on behalf of the New Black Panther Party is in the house with us tonight. We're very pleased to have him here. I see my longtime friend, Brother Morris Powers, also in the back with others. And at this time, we want to get on our feet and give these brothers a warm round of applause as they come to the stage. Brother Michael Muhammad.
I'm most thankful to the organizers of this program, to UAM, Brother Alton Maddox, and all who are in attendance. We're especially thankful that we get an opportunity to address you all and to give the facts as best we know at this point in time. Thank you. I am glad to be standing in the light and in the legacy and on the shoulders of a man who came and got me at a very young age and has taken me to new heights, and as his spirit still leads and guides me, will take me even higher. All right. Of course, I speak of my leader, my teacher, and my guide, my big brother, and in many, many respects, my father, Dr. Khallid. As I was appointed Minister Khallid, National Minister of Youth, and an assistant to Minister Khallid and a member of his National Central Committee, when the minister initially took ill, I was called and told that I needed to get to Atlanta immediately. At that time, it was Tuesday morning when I got the call. I believe it was Tuesday the 13th. I then told Attorney Shabazz, who had given me the call, Minister Khallid's national spokesman and the national spokesman for the New Black Panther Party, and also the New Black Panther Party's attorney, that though I was pained and I was overwhelmed with what happened, I asked him to give me a few hours to gather myself, because my father at that time was undergoing quadruple bypass surgery. So as soon as the surgery was over, I immediately was escorted to the airport. I boarded the plane. I arrived in Atlanta, where I met with Sister Erica Ford, and from there we were escorted to the hospital. We immediately went and got a briefing on what the situation was, and then we went in to be at our leader's side. I had never in my life, as God is my witness, as young as I am, expected to see this man, who was one of the three men in my life I remember not too long ago sitting with my family upon the birth of my daughter and putting some paperwork and some things together. I remember telling my family that this is the man whom I wanted to funeralize or to eulogize me when that time came for me. So I definitely did not expect this man to go in this way and at this time. It was an extremely painful situation for all of us who were there to go through as we stayed at the hospital 24/7, only leaving for short periods of time to take care of the business that had to be taken care of as it pertained to the minister. We were at his side. We had constant security, as Brother Alton Maddox can attest to. He had 24-hour around-the-clock security. We monitored the doctors. We monitored the nurses. We monitored the visitors. And we also had, from amongst us, those who were knowledgeable in medical terminology and medical equipment present 24 hours a day. We had security posts outside of the ICU ward, as well as inside and outside of his immediate room. We also had an entire wing of the ICU floor that was set aside, or that just happened to be empty because the hospital was undergoing construction that the Panthers occupied. So we stayed again 24 hours a day for the entire duration of our minister's illness at the hospital. We had independent study, independent investigation, independent examination by many different doctors who were skilled in this profession. One, and the lead doctor being a black doctor. All of his doctors were black. Yeah. Each and every one of his doctors were black. Yeah. And they were all thoroughly checked out before they were allowed to examine him. One, and the lead doctor being a brother by the name of Dr. Jimenez, who was a neurologist and a highly recommended and well-noted and known neurologist, who had constant consultation back and forth on a daily and consistent basis with Dr. Ben Carson. Many of you know Dr. Ben Carson. We also were blessed that Dr. Malachi Z. York's personal physicians examined the minister after they came by, and we had a thorough check of their credentials, and we checked them from top to bottom. We called them about 2:30 in the morning on Thursday, I believe it was the 15th, and asked them to come back to the hospital at 2:30 in the morning, and they did. And they thoroughly examined the records. They thoroughly examined him, and the results of their examination concurred with Dr. Jimenez and all who had been involved heretofore. Upon his entrance into the hospital, which he did not enter into the hospital, Wellstone, I believe it is, initially, he was taken to another hospital in Cobb County, which he was taken there because this was the closest hospital to his residence in Atlanta. And when we were told that these facilities that he was at were not conducive for his condition, he was then carried to the next nearest hospital, which was the Wellstone Hospital. None of the doctors who examined him, none of the nurses who examined him were allowed to examine him in the absence of trained security, nor those who were amongst us who knew medical examination. The evidence that we received from them, as well as the evidence that we had gathered at that time, as it still remains at this time, from the toxicology tests and from the autopsy, at this time, as we have said, as we have never said, never issued a statement saying that it was natural causes, but saying that at this time we had no evidence that it was anything other than natural causes. We know and understand, as I had a conversation earlier today with a brother who was also at one time very close to Dr. Khallid, a long conversation. We know and understand, as Doc once said, that if I so much as slip on a banana peel, goddamn it, the white man did. as we continue to leave no stones unturned. When Attorney Alton Maddox came to the hospital, he was ushered into a room where he sat with Attorney Shabazz and they talked back and forth. Then I came into the room and I moved them from one room to another room as Doc's Queen, his wife, was staying in the room where they were. And when we brought her back into the room, we moved them to another room where I then engaged in the conversation that was taking place. At no time, and I must say, at no time did Attorney Maddox ask about any medical testing, didn't ask about any doctor. The only questions posed by Attorney Maddox was, when could I go on the radio? When could I? So we dotted every I, as Attorney Shabazz is an attorney and practices and takes care of malpractice suits. We dotted every I as best we knew, and we crossed every T as best we knew. We called on many, asking for their experience, asking for their assistance, asking for their aid and their help. We didn't turn any of our people, particularly those who were extremely close to the minister, we didn't turn any of them away. But I can publicly say tonight, and I am comfortable saying, that if we are standing throughout the country and we are dredging up the circumstances of the minister's death to spring our people forth into action, and goddamn it, I'll introduce anybody in here on that program. But if we are using the death of our beloved minister to generate speaking engagements, to generate crowds, and to generate finances for our own personal and trifling gain, then goddamn it, you're my enemy, and I'm gonna attack you every goddamn way you are. As a large amount of business. And it's the truth that I love this man more than I loved my own life. Because I knew that this man possessed in him a great measure of the antidote to the illness of our people. So wherever he would go, I would be there. Whenever he would send for me, I would be there. We were in negotiations back and forth as he was planning to move me into his home in Georgia so that I could travel with him back and forth throughout the country. And many of these who are here tonight with us can bear witness, as he has said on many occasions. He said, brother, if somebody else was to disrespect me, because one time in a conversation, and I don't mind saying this, I cut across him trying to impress him. And he said, God damn it, brother, if somebody else was to disrespect me, you would be the first. Am I lying, Brother Shabazz? Right. You would be the first to go and kill them, or to try and kill them. He said, but now you have disrespected me. And we quickly corrected that. And we tightened our love and our union as this man and I talked back and forth all the time as he worked on me. Some of you here tonight can bear witness to this same truth. So goddamn it, if I thought that it was somebody, as I wish and I pray to Almighty God that we could find somebody that we could put this death on, then I would do it, because that would give us somebody's ass that we could go to. But as it appears at this time, only at this time, as the investigations continue to go forward, as it appears at this time, I repeat, as it appears at this time, there is no evidence of foul play. I have to speak to another comment that was made here last week. That Attorney Maddox, if I'm not mistaken, you said that you were told not to appear at the funeral nor to wait. I'm asking you. I'm asking you.
Mike.
I want to go back to one thing so we can put this in context. When we go into the hospital, I was there twice.
twice. Okay, I was there twice. Now, so that you can understand this, when you indicate that you know of no evidence to indicate that he died of anything other than a natural cause, we're not here to dispute that. In fact, if you had gotten my tape when I got back from Georgia, I actually read the statutes that apply to deaths in Georgia. I wasn't dealing with what I thought. I was dealing with what Georgia law said. All right? Now, so you understand. See, we're not at odds on issues. No, sir. Right. I don't disagree with your point. My point is this. Georgia law says that when a person is admitted to a hospital unconscious and remains unconscious for a period of more than 24 hours, there is a presumption of foul play. Now, that doesn't dispute what you're saying. You said there's no evidence, but Georgia said there's a presumption. All right? Given that there is a presumption of foul play, under Georgia law, there has to be a medical investigation. Correct. All right? Now, that was my point. My point is that we have to presume that there's foul play. Now, there's a reason. There's a reason for that. The reason for that is that there are many people who have gone into the hospital because of foul play, and they cannot speak for themselves. So that the people that bring them in there can tell the medical personnel anything. And to allow people to get away with that, Georgia says that there is a presumption of foul play. Now, the reason why there was an autopsy by the state and there was, because I've already done my investigation, and the autopsy did not take place in Wellstone. He was moved to another hospital, right, as I know. The reason why that occurred is because Georgia required an autopsy, whether Khallid wanted one or not. That is not true. That is true. No, sir, it's not. Was the state, wait. No, sir. Listen. Let us first see what we disagree about. First, find out what we agree. I have to state the facts. I know them. I know, but I'm not getting ready to take you off of that. See, I believe that we have to first find all the things that we agree on, and then we get to the point where we understand where we disagree. All right. Now, we do both agree that Dr. Khallid was removed from Wellstone and taken to another hospital after he died. That is correct. We also both agree that when he arrived at this second hospital, that there was an autopsy that was conducted. That is correct. We also agree that the state was involved in the conducting of that autopsy. That is correct. Okay, now where do we disagree? Again, the autopsy was not done at the request or at the law, according to the law of the state of Georgia, because even according to the law, as a Muslim, he did not have to undergo that autopsy. That's right. So at the request of his wife and his attorney, an autopsy was performed. He was moved from Wellstone Hospital to Cobb Hospital under armed security. As armed security stood with him in the hospital, as armed security stood with him in the morgue, we had brothers and sisters to go through the painful process of standing in the morgue overnight, rotating on post. As I personally, along with another sister who is knowledgeable of medical procedure and autopsy, stood armed security, as painful as it was, over his autopsy. Stood security and watched and examined each and every aspect of the autopsy, had the
got in the truck with it in the van with his body. The blood dripping from his body, from the autopsy. We went into the funeral home again with his body, where we stayed until his body was bathed and dressed and flown here to New York. From the time he went in the hospital to the time he was put in the ground, except in the baggage car compartment of the airplane, his body was under tight security watch. And every move that was made by the medical staff, though we cannot control everything they do, and I would not foolishly try and say that we could, they were watched as best they could be. But according to Minister Khalid's words, right here in Harlem, on Friday, the 10th, Saturday the 10th, his last speech, he spoke of those who pretended to be with him, but really were not.
That's right. That's
He
right.
spoke boldly of that many times, but particularly this night. He spoke of those who pretended to be with him and were not. He spoke privately to many of us, as he told us of his brother right here, Steve Copeland, who he had been distant from for 3 years, who had traveled back and forth throughout the country attacking him with no provocation or cause. He said of this man right here, of all of the times that I spoke throughout the world, and there were protesters and people who did not want me to speak, of all of the things that were said of me and to me, none pained me more than what I heard my brother Stephen Copeland say. He sent many messages to that man, through me and through others, asking him to join him on many different platforms. And though I'm not a lawyer, I do believe in due process and the fairness of allowing one to speak for himself. So I won't go too much into that because brother's not here. But I will say that he was much pain. And as Dr. Ben said at the funeral service, if all who are concerned now would have been concerned when he was alive,
That's right.
then much of the stress that burdened him down, that wore him down, that added to his brother's not here. But I will say that he was much pain. And as Dr. Ben said at the funeral service, if all who are concerned now would have been concerned when he was alive,
That's right.
then much of the stress that burdened him down, that wore him down, that added to his severe hypertension, maybe would not have killed him.
On that one, we're not going to beat a dead horse.
No, we're not gonna do
Okay, no. As I indicated before, if you go back and listen to what I just said and what you just said, you don't see too many deviations on those points.
at this time.
Well, you see, my point was this, and I will state it very clearly. The second time when I came back, Brother Eric, you're going to be speaking next, so don't giddy up out of here. See, right, he was towards the door, trying to sneak out. Eric? All right.
Go nowhere.
All right. All right. Now, okay, but let me just say this. The reason why I came back up there the second time on Friday, all right, the reason why I came back up there the second time on Friday, and I don't think you were in the room when we first started having the conversation.
No, sir. I was escorting his wife.
Right. Brother Malik and Attorney Malik Shabazz and Lil Farrakhan and myself were in the room. All right, so a lot of the conversation you were not a party to. But when I came back the second time, the reason why I came back was because I indicated to Attorney Shabazz that I was very concerned that enough information had not been given out about Dr. Khalid's condition, and that there were people around the country who were alternating between whether he was dead or alive. And I indicated to Attorney Shabazz that I thought it was his responsibility to the people to hold a press conference and tell the world what his condition was at that time. Because even after I left the hospital that morning, people were still calling me back every 10 or 15 minutes saying that he was dead. And even though I was in the hospital, I was still unsure of what his condition was from 1 minute to the next. Let me just finish. Now, as a result of that, Brother Shabazz, or Attorney Shabazz, held a press conference.
Not absolutely true.
Well, he was on Channel 9 here in New York.
That was not the reasoning behind it.
Well,
to assume
no,
that you were the reason behind the press conference is where the problem comes in.
All right, well, that's not relevant.
Yes, it is very relevant.
No,
it's very relevant because if we're going to bring facts out,
What, brother?
If we're going to bring facts out, then all the damn facts need to come out. Goddammit, we're not going to be one-sided. Hold. The press conference was held back. The press conference was held back because we were catching security hell from keeping the beast press from coming in and picturing the brother in an unsuitable condition. So we held back the press conference for security reasons and at the request of the family. And at the request of the family, and after the security issues had been resolved, and after we conferred and met, then we decided to do a press conference.
Brother,
after we met with the doctors and with the family.
Brother.
So, brother, you can't tell the whole story if you don't want to hear both sides.
I'm hearing both sides, but let me repeat again. Let me repeat again. Most of the conversation, you were not in the room.
For the very first part.
All right, most of the conversation, you...
No, sir, brother.
No,
the very first part of the conversation.
Brother,
let's be honest and true. We're going to be here, we're
Brother
be
Mike,
honest and true.
Look, let us talk one at a time. Can we do that? Can we do that? Look, I was not going to interrupt.
You can talk loud and control the mic. This is your house. First of all,
Brother,
when you invite a man to your home, you're not being pulled the plate away from him. Let it go. Sir? Yes, sir. Again, as I said, you don't invite a man to your house, and then when you invite him into your house and invite him to your table, then pull the plate back. All of the fanfare ain't necessary. You get your ass out of the audience, whoever said that. Your trifling ass, you were nowhere. You were nowhere to be found when the man needed. You were nowhere to be found when the man needed a friend. You were nowhere.
I am 63. I don't feel you.
Hotel.
Keep the leadership.
We want everybody. We want
We need a separate.
hotel.
Hotel.
I'm going to sit down with Brother Michael Muhammad. I'm going to sit down with Attorney Malik Shabazz. I'm going to hopefully sit down with Steve Coakley. And I want us to be able to work out an intelligent format where we can all come before our community in a productive way and begin to answer questions that our community believes should be answered. And I think that Brother Michael saw from tonight that there's a need for such a meeting. All right? There's a need for such a meeting. He said he saw it before tonight. I think that we saw from tonight that we need to sit down. And in fact, we will be sitting down. And we will be developing a format where it will be a productive evening. I do not believe that going any further tonight, under the circumstances, will be productive. I do not believe that. I believe that as an African people, that we have an obligation to lead here in unity. That's right. And I believe that every time that we meet, whether we agree or disagree, that we have that obligation to lead here as a united front. And so, after having said all of that, I want to ask everybody to stand. Okay, we are. All right. Let us repeat after me. We are African people, rock from our homeland, rock from our name, our languages, our culture, our religion, our womanhood, our manhood, our sisterhood, our brotherhood, our motherhood, our fatherhood, our selfhood, and our self-respect. So we shall rise, never fall again. Up the United Range, you can accomplish what you will. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice.
I probably did more than I had done at any other time. I spent about 2 hours talking about the discrepancies in college debt and what happened. And it's such an emotional thing. I had to sit down and do it, just to talk to everybody honestly about it all. 2, I never felt personally unsafe as a result of having the information. Though people were making threats and all sorts of other things coming from the League Zulu Shabazz and others. But once the threats were made and we fortified for business, there was no cover on business, on coming anywhere near the operation. I kept my daughter out of school for a week because they came home and had the Khallid rally at my daughter's school. And so I took out of school for a week. I fortified, got plenty bazookas and guns and everything else, and we just kind of sat for about 2 weeks and waited for some stuff. And that night at the UAM, I was telling Alton Maddox, though I understood that people wanted to hear the information. Because they didn't impress me as being militaristic about it, I didn't want to compromise their safety over the program. Now, I will be clear about that. Just like at that night, the people who stand guard at the UAM perform more like ushers than military.
Right.
And, you know, half the time they liked me and half the time they didn't. You know, be quiet, Coakley. No sale yet, Coakley. No raffle, Coakley. There's always something. Coakley, the money's short. Always something. So half of them liked you, half of them didn't. Probably half of them was real. Probably half of them belonged to the government. So I didn't consider the UAM a militaristic enough arm. Now, there were people who were pledging military support for what I was doing, but I was not interested in organizing them in a force to get into a discussion with other blacks with no power. See, whenever you get in a fight, you got to know what you win for it. You know, it's a little... So I spent more time in that discussion than probably at any other time. The tape in Philly, a year earlier, Brother Barashango came, who did the service for Khallid. He had known some of the things that had went down even while that service was going on up here in New York. And him and other people got on the tape, and I responded to some people who were in the audience who asked a question similar to yours about Brother Khallid and discrepancies. The KK tape, which I believe is was about as much public discussion about what happened to Khallid as is publicly available. And back in October, I got with Brother Calfani, Khalid's oldest son, in Atlanta. I had him listen to the tapes, and it was his approach to me was that the family wanted to file a wrongful death suit. Now, that involves a series of activities done by a series of people, but what it is, as much as anything, it's a information gathering process. You are preparing to allege that the hospital, the ambulance, maybe an individual or others did not give him appropriate response medical care. Whereas somebody else say he got state-of-the-art medical care, which was 4 days after he was dead. He was reviewed by doctors all the way from an old boy who got cancer in Baltimore down to Malachi York people. Now let me go back there. In this tape I did Saturday, I used to show this little Wesley Snipes thing when he was building the Royal Garden of Amin-Ra, which was right next to the Nuwaubian Nation in Atlanta, outside of Atlanta. And Khallid wanted to build a Black Panther retreat next to that. So you had the Nuwaubians, the Panthers, the Royal Garden of Amin-Ra. You had the sheriff, one of Khalid's best friends. That was the sheriff who got gunned down by the other drug-selling sheriff. Cal County Sheriff. Khallid is dead. Brother Jamil, who was in on this, is in jail. And Malachi York, his wife, just pleaded guilty. Took 15 years in jail. And Yahweh just getting out of jail. He ain't talked to his own members as part of his parole agreement. Unprecedented. He's out, but he's still in.
Right.
But the bottom line there is that they have attacked our people, not just Khallid, but a series of people who were up to things beyond themselves got attacked. And anybody else, the top black investment banker dead. The top black boy on Beatrice Foods dead. We start walking around, look like every time black get up to something,
right.
And without the Assassination Prevention Bureau, that we will investigate, instigate, and exterminate those who harm our people, there will be more deaths of strategic people, and I feel like they're hovering around my soul, which is why I turn to you all and say, I smell them. I'm whooping them in every angle because I smell them. I know what the build-up looks like. I'm a master of who killed who. I've done 15 what happened to somebody. I'm sick of that. What happened to Harold Watson? What happened to John Wilson, who was head of D.C. City Council, hangs himself the day he's going to announce for mayor? What happened to Ron Brown? What happened to Martin King? What happened to Tupac Biggie? What happened to Khallid? What happened to all them damn people? I'm tired of what happened to somebody trying to put a team on something so killers just don't run loose to prevent further killing. In the KK state, Malik says he'll take the autopsy to responsible leaders. I don't know who responsible a leader there is that loves Khallid Muhammad. Not the NAACP, the Urban League, or whomever that was. But nobody else, anybody ever see the autopsy of Khallid? No. Now, at probably one of the biggest nights of the UAM, I asked everybody who loved Khallid, raise your hand. Everybody who loved Khallid, raise your hand. All right, then here comes the trick question. The trick question is, I'll give $100 to the person that can name me the 2 paramedics that picked him up at his house in Atlanta almost 2 years ago this week. $100, $200, $500, $1,000. You see, the names of whites are safe amongst the scared. Drop that low science stuff. Khallid didn't recreate the reforming of the Black Panthers. He was invited into it by Aaron Michaels and the other brothers in Dallas who reformed the image of the Black Panther Party. The Black Panther Party in Oakland, Bobby Seale and, no, he was dead, David Hilliard and others came out, it was even in the New York Times, and attacked Malik Zulu Shabazz. And the attack was about that Malik Zulu Shabazz is talking against white people, and the Panthers of old worked with white people, and they want Malik and him to stop using the Panther name. Copy that. But Brother Coakley say drop the dead animal game. That means all parties, and I ain't gonna get in no argument over Malik disrespecting white people, because I know he respects white people. And I ain't getting no argument over the Panthers and white people, because that's what brought them Panthers down. White people. And so, I still believe Brother Khallid was murdered. Right. When I believe he was set up for murder. I believe that story that ran 3 weeks before he died was promoting Malik Zulu Shabazz to replace him in case of death. WashingtonCityPaper.com, January 19th to the 25th, like your Village Voice, the local Village Voice in D.C. type paper. And I believe Khallid felt this pressure. The one person who nobody know anything about was the woman he died with, Nefertari, real name Ambush. And nobody really knew her. No, she had no history in the black community. And of all the people who would know anything about what to do in case something happened to Khallid, she was not the one. She called Brother Hashim to the house. Used to be known as Steve in Dallas. Worked with Dr. Sims and his wife, both of them are dead. He leaves Dallas to work with Khallid. Khalid's dead. His history is everybody he ever been with is dead. He's still with Malik. Brother Michael, who snatched the mic from Alton Maddox, ain't with Malik no more. He's left to ask for forgiveness for being misguided. Time has passed, things have changed, and at the time you really demand to know, you're going to get the answers. People are standing, waiting for you to want to know bad enough. Because life will never be the same when you hear how organized they are about killing who we are anytime they think they have to.